welcome in, everybody. Want to ask you a few questions before we get started. Number one, how will the 12 drafters handle tonight's Broncos receiver situation? Will we see a tight ends arm race once again? And can anyone impress Terp more than the GOAT District's Dan Williamson did last night? Follow along with the live draft board tonight as you watch our pick-by-pick analysis while we call the action from the 2022 FFPC Pros vs. Joe's No Mercy League number 6. To see who's going to win a 2023 FFPC main event squad. We've got a great show for you. Ferrell, Elliott, and Dave Terpoilli are here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
And the pressure, I've seen greater men than need a lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture, are we not all our father's sons? I became a man, nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you so much, Rob. Greetings and salutations to all the Balkaholics and Ferrelliacs. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. My co-hosts, who I'll welcome in just a minute, are the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Ferrell Elliott, and our live FFPC best ball analyst expert, Dave Terpoilli. Tonight, we have the final of 6 special episodes for you. It's the 2022 FFPC Pros vs. Joe's No Mercy League number 6 draft tonight, and we will be covering it for the next roughly 2 hours or so, basically until its completion. Shout out to the chat room right now, both on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. If you want to have any questions answered by myself, Ferrell, Terp, or any of the guests tonight, feel free to do so. Connect with us on Twitter at HSFF Hour, at Eric Balkman, at J. Ferrell Elliott, at Dave Terp. You can post on our Facebook page at facebook.com/HSFFhour. You can also email the show at the inbox at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, now's the time to send them. We'll try to get to all the chat room questions, tweets, and emails throughout the program tonight, thanks to the hard work of our producer and mutual friend, Rob, and of course, our audio engineer, my best friend, Bryce. Main event slow drafts, off and running. If you want to take your shot at $1 million grand prize, you don't have to wait till August 12th when the live drafts start. You can draft in a slow draft right now. Multiple football guys drafts filling up each and every day right now for a $500,000 grand prize, just $350 to get in that contest. Speaking of $350, you want to take your shot at the Terminator $25,000 grand prize. Those are popping off in just about 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks away from those. So make sure you're registering for that. Slow draft's already off and running for the Terminator. The FFPC Best Ball Tournament grand prize and prize pool doubled to $200,000 and $1 million respectively, just $125 to get into that. And of course, our Super Flex Best Ball Tournament, $35 could turn into 10 grand for you this year. The Dynasty startups are going to be available for about the next month and a half or so. Plenty of slow live best ball options, all at myffpc.com. And don't forget to join the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com. Bringing in one of our co-hosts this evening, it is Dave Terpoilli. Dave, welcome in. We follow you on Twitter at Dave Terp. Thank you so much for hanging out with us once again tonight. You were really impressed with GOAT District's draft last night, Dan Williamson. I don't think you're going to I feel like it's going to take a lot for one of these drafters to live up to what you saw last night.
100%. I was very impressed. I gave him an A, the highest grade I've given so far. It was very, very good from top to bottom.
And let's get to the first round of tonight's draft, top to bottom. And we'll tell you right now, and we'll introduce who's drafting tonight. It's a loaded draft, both with the pros and Joes. John Daigle from 4 for 4 takes Christian McCaffrey to lead things off. Jay Scafariello and Dan Steigers go with Jonathan Taylor at the 102. There are a couple of FFPC Joes. Sharp Football Analysis is Rich Hribar, then goes with Cooper Kupp at the 103. Justin Jefferson off the board to the FFPC Joe tandem of Peter Couliveris and Brian Gerber. Mike Schoop and Adam Krautwurst from the Draft Sharks Deep End Fantasy Football podcast are picking 5th tonight. Austin Eckler is their choice there. Travis Kelce to Chad Schroeder, the inaugural FFPC main event overall winner. He grabs Kelce at 106. Michael Nazarek, the fantasy football mastermind, drafting in the 7th spot. He gets Jamar Chase there. Dalvin Cook goes to Tim Deneau and Timbo Lou, another pair of former FFPC main event champions. They grabbed Dalvin Cook at the 108, Najee Harris to Fantasy Alarm's Howard Bender at the 109 tonight. And then you're having Saquon Barkley go off the board to Kevin and Jamison Proctor at the 110. Stephon Diggs makes a first-round appearance tonight. He at the 111 to Darren Armani from Fantasy Mojo. And, of course, Derrick Henry off the board to the final entrant tonight. That's Grant Dempsey, the FFPC Joe. We've seen Christian McCaffrey go at the 101 in a few drafts now, Terp. What do you make of McCaffrey over Jonathan Taylor this year from some of these pros and Joes?
He should be there. I would take him 100 times out of 100, number one. I don't see any reason not to. Baker, very likely to be the quarterback. Very, very high on McCaffrey this year. He's, to me, the slam dunk number one overall pick.
And I don't think a whole lot of other surprises in there. We see Saquon Barkley. I know Kevin Proctor is a Giants fan, so he grabs Barkley at the 110 there.
That's where he should go.
Now, so you think is Barkley going to creep up, do you think, as we get closer to main events at Planet Hollywood this year? Does he creep up into the first half of the first round, given how he's ascending right now? He's
definitely the number one guy when it comes to just ascending up draft boards, in my opinion. When it comes to, by the time we drafted in late September, early September, late August, Barkley's going to be in then the first round. If not, he'll be very, very at the beginning of the second round. He's not slipping into the middle of the second round anymore, at least in my opinion.
Let's welcome in our first guest tonight. We'll get to him right now. You follow his work not only at the New York Post, but he is the head of content at Fantasy Alarm. He's an FSGA and FSW award-winning host for Sirius XM, and of course the Ante Up podcast, bringing in baseball to it. He's the 2018 NL Labor Champ. Of course, he is the host of the Fantasy Alarm Show. Follow him on Twitter at RotoBuzzGuy. We're bringing him in right now. It is Howard Bender. Howard, welcome into the broadcast tonight, man.
What's up, boys?
What's up, man?
Dave, hi, how are you? It's great to meet you. Actually, we've never met. I had to see Balky's beard.
It's a great beard.
We were talking about it on Sirius XM. I saw him and I was like, oh my God, it's Nick Nolte from Down and Out in Beverly Hills, and now he's doing fantasy. I was so pumped about it.
Yeah, no, it's right up there. It's legendary. I could easily pass for a homeless man pretty quickly right now, ladies and gentlemen, with a passing glance. Howard, you were at the 9 spot tonight. No real surprise here. I mean, you had to know there was probably a handful of players that would be available to you there. You get Najee Harris. You got to be pretty happy with the volume that you're going to see with Harris this year.
Super happy to get Najee Harris falling to 9. I mean, I think that the first round, we know who the probable players are. So it's just a matter of what the draft room gives you. So Najee Harris with like full blown volume there, just to me, it made perfect sense. He's the number 3 running back on my board. Number 1 is Taylor. Number 2 is Eckler. And so I was like, all right, I'll grab me some Najee here. I feel pretty darn good about it.
Joe Mixon, another high volume guy in round 2. Do you think people are letting Mixon slip a little too far, given the workload that he should get this year on an elite offense that just came off a Super Bowl appearance?
I actually almost took Mixon over Harris. I love Joe Mixon here. And listen, the Bengals, they use the pass to set up the run, right? So Burrow's going to have his field day with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and, do their thing that they usually do. And then, just Mixon gets massive volume. What I love even more so was that Zach Taylor made it a very specific point this year to say, I know we didn't get Joe the snaps and on third down like he should have gotten. And we used a lot of Samaje Perine. We were kind of keeping him, protected in that sense. We don't need to do that this year. We don't want to do that this year. So, get him in on some more pass catching work on third down. Mixon, to me, he's a first round back.
Knowing that you have a couple of FFPC Joes on either side of you, obviously the former main event champions and Dano and Bo Lou drafting in the 8 slot, and then 10 spot, you have accomplished high stakes drafters and Kevin and Jamison Proctor there. They both went running back to start as well. Do you feel like you're going to be fighting over receivers here, or is there a way that you can alleviate that going forward now?
We'll probably be fighting over receivers, soon enough. I mean, it depends on who falls to, our spots. But, I think that when you are drafting around other people who are using obviously a similar strategy, it does tend to make things a little bit more difficult. So maybe I throw like a little pivot in there. Maybe I hit tight end a little earlier beforehand. Maybe I throw down a quarterback. Not here in the third round. That would be silly. But I might have to shake things up a little bit when I work around these two guys picking around me.
How does the fact that Chad Schroeder, the inaugural FFPC main event overall champion, does it change your draft strategy at all? Seeing that he starts off his draft tonight, tight end, Kelsey and Andrews, are you pushing the tight ends up on your board a little bit as a result?
I mean, no, not really. I mean, I get that it's tight end premium, and you kind of have to watch that. But I mean, it's really you're focusing, in a tight end premium, you're focusing on guys who get the tight ends who get the targets, and Kelsey, Pitts, those are the two most highly targeted. I'm not sure how Kittle, works with Justin Fields there under center, so I don't know if I want to push him up. He's also got the injury history. I don't even know if I want to push up Mark Andrews. So, even though it's tight end premium, I might be looking a little later for some guys who, I feel like they have good, strong upside, but they're not going to cost me a fortune.
Howard, you've been in this contest for several years now, more than several, probably the better part of a decade. Has there been something that's worked out for you? Have you achieved success in this format by doing a certain, type of draft strategy, targeting a certain position early, waiting on a certain position? What's been sort of your key to success in this 20-round best ball slim format?
I don't know. I'll tell you at the end of the season, because I haven't had much success in this in this whole aspect here. I think I've been, I think I've just kind of been like middle of the pack. There hasn't been anything, crazy. Maybe I'm not just, I mean, that's the funny thing is, like, when you sit there and you're drafting here in the best ball, you got to keep that mindset going of, it's more high ceiling than it is high floor. In a regular seasonal, I'm setting my lineups, this and that. I want to make sure I've got my share of good high floor guys in there. In this, maybe I just need to take a couple of more chances and see, if somebody's going to pop a little more than usual. So now I got like this is a terrible spot to be drafting at right now. It's like,
I think it's a great spot.
Really?
At the 109, or beg your pardon, the 309, Howard, you're on the clock right now.
I just mean like this part of the draft. I mean, I don't mind drafting at the back. I like it. It's just that, I'm looking at like Waller and AJ Brown, and I could go running back again. I could go with the, with the tight end. I just don't have my heart on certain guys. Like, seeing Mike Williams go this, as early as he did, it kind of hurt my feelings a little bit. I'm not going to lie. That kind of stung. And, I'm going to go A.J. Brown here, elite wide receiver 1. We'll see if Jalen Hurts can, improve his passing and his accuracy. But I think that, they're going to funnel the targets his way.
Yeah, we're looking at the draft right now for you, Howard. And obviously the selection by the FFPC Joes in the 4 spot tonight, Mike Williams going to Peter Koulibaris and Brian Gerber. That is quite early for what he normally goes in our FFPC best ball tournament. You're looking at Mike Williams tonight going at the 304. He has an ADP right now of the 403, so about a round earlier. Had Williams been on the board there, which he normally is for you, would you have taken him over A.J. Brown?
Yes. I am, and I'll say this, man, like, this is kind of funny because I don't have a single player. It's the third round, right? I've made 3 picks, and I don't have a single AFC West player. It's very unlike me. It's very unlike me. I love the AFC West. I'm saying, you look at these teams and what they've done, and that the over-under on these games when they play each other each time this season is going to be over 50. Right, so there's going to be a ton of points there. So I've been going heavily on the AFC West in a lot of my drafts and working on that Chargers stack, right? And you get yourself, you can do Eckler, Eckler with Justin Herbert and Mike Williams is definitely. It's probably a little easier to do that than to try and get Keenan Allen in there. He goes a little earlier. But so that's kind of where I've been living right now. So now I'm sitting here and I've got Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, A.J. Brown. I can go in a multitude of different directions. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going here right now.
And we have, as the third round has come to completion here, we do have 4 tight ends now off the board. Darren Waller going to Darren Armani here at the 311. Josh Allen, the first quarterback, off the board at the 312. So when it comes back to you, Howard, we're 3 picks away from it. You have your foundation volume heavy running backs here. You get A.J. Brown as the 14th receiver off the board. And I think at this position, it kind of gives you a lot of flexibility given what you have, given what you're looking at. And I think that's probably a key as you're not only a veteran of pros versus Joes, but the FFPC main event as well. Flexibility is key with this lineup.
Yeah, you have to be able to kind of pivot around certain things, and you have to understand that, you're drafting against, it's kind of funny. I always say this about a snake draft, right? You're not drafting your team. The rest of the room is drafting your team for you and just showing you what's available to you. So, I'm kind of sitting here right now. It's funny. I might do something a little outlandish that I don't normally do. I don't know if I want to do it though. Oh my God.
Don't take a quarterback.
Don't do it, right?
Don't take a quarterback.
Don't. Bender, don't take a quarterback. Don't do it, right? But then, you look at what's available right now, and it's another interesting spot. I'm probably going to sit here again. I'll probably take a third running back, right? I'm looking at either Breece Hall. Zeke Elliott might actually be a kind of a steal here in the 4th round, but then I kind of have to make sure that I lock in Tony Pollard a little later on, right? It's kind of a concern. I do like Cam Akers. I might have to go with the homer pick, guys. I might have to do it. I'm doing it.
You made the right selection.
I'm doing it.
There you go, Breece Hall, baby.
I'm
going
the
right
homer.
selection.
That's what it's all about. Yeah. So now, another volume guy here, Howard, right? A guy that is a rookie, but that the Jets are going to be counting on quite a bit. Now you have 3 guys who are going to get a lot of touches here in the first 4 rounds.
Yeah, and 2 flex spots there also, so you can regularly start, a multitude of running backs. There's still, you look at the receivers who are available right now and in this area, and DJ Moore, I'm not a Baker Mayfield guy. Allen Robinson, I love him, but he's got to get that work with Stafford in, and I think they're actually, I'm hearing that they're a little concerned about Stafford with his shoulder. They're taking it real slow with him right now. And that actually, when you want to develop chemistry with your quarterback, you do it in practice, for crying out loud. So, Robinson and Stafford, I think it'll click at some point. But, do I want to do that, or do I want to take a guy, a kid who could be the RB1 or should be the RB1 in this system?
You're off and running to a great start here, Howard. We appreciate you making some time for us. We will continue to not only follow you on Twitter at RotoBuzzGuy, we'll follow everything you're doing at Fantasy Alarm. We'll follow everything you're doing with the New York Post. And then, of course, we will listen to you and Jim Bowden 5 to 7 Eastern Time, Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio on weekdays. Appreciate it, dude. Thank you so much. And I'll talk to you on Thursday.
I will talk to you on Thursday. Absolutely. Dave, I appreciate you you cheering on my picks like that. Usually somebody's in my ear going so
it's a long draft, no guarantees.
That's good. Saving it for later, Howard. He's going to rip it later.
Everybody's got an amazing team 4 rounds in.
So far, so good.
Thanks, man. Talk
Thanks,
to you soon.
guys.
Have a good one.
You got it.
Pleasure.
Howard Bender, ladies and gentlemen, from Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, the Fantasy Alarm Show, and of course, New York Post head of content at the Fantasy Alarm. The head of the KFFSC is Ferrell Elliott, and he is joining us right now. Welcome in, commish. It has been a thrilling start to the draft so far. We have, as you probably already saw, 2 tight ends to Chad Schroeder from the 6th spot in the first 2 rounds, and 2 tight ends in rounds 3 and 4 to Darren Armani. 2 very, very, very accomplished and experienced players in this format, Ferrell. And we already have 2 teams with 2 tight ends on their squad.
Yeah, you like that, don't you, Bonky? And you know what? If you're going to show up 15 minutes late and cede 20 minutes of time, who better to give it to than Howard Bender? If I'm going to be late, I pick the right night to be late. But, yeah, the tight ends are flying off the board. What do you think about that? Dalton Schultz early in the 4th, that's where I've been drafting him all year.
You know what I think is always compelling here is, and Howard said, and this is when we were talking with Chad Schroeder going with the 2 tight ends early. He said, I'm not really changing my strategy too much. And, you really shouldn't have to flip it on its ear. But I do think for these owners that go in wanting to have an elite tight end early, and then you see 2 tight ends go in the first 18 picks, 3 tight ends go off the board in the first 19 picks, then I think you do have to change your strategy if you're married to that. And if you're not, then you have to be able to pivot at Terp. And this is something you've experienced before. People get sniped all the time in this. This is the best of the best. And you have to be willing to shift your strategy on the fly. Otherwise, you will die.
Yeah, if you're just setting on one guy and he gets taken, your whole draft could get flipped and it could turn ugly really fast off one selection.
Dave Terp, you have a script on your T-shirt tonight, which I cannot read. Okay,
there you go. There you go.
The Harry Potter reference, if you didn't know that.
Yeah, no, I did not. I am not a Harry Potter guy, so I would not.
Where'd you get that shirt, Terp?
I got it in Universal. I went to Florida, I think it was like 4 months ago.
So you are a guy. What is your favorite of the books of the Harry Potter?
I don't read.
I
watched the movies about 100 times.
What's your favorite film?
Probably Deathly Hallows. Probably the first one, not the ending one.
Terp, I heard on Twitter that you were actually a teaching assistant at Hogwarts, and that was like your parting gift there to get that. I didn't know. That's never know. We are, as Dave the Dizzle Gerzak pointed out, we have a lot of receivers off the board here, guys. Ooh. We are not even halfway through the 5th round. Already 26 receivers off the board. Terp, you've been part of these drafts before. What happens when you see all this yellow on the board? Do you start making a point to grab one, or do you just load up on running backs and tight ends?
I stay with the trend. I mean, I don't want to reach for no reason. I mean, taking a guy like a running back right here, which is kind of like in the ugly zone, is not something I'd recommend. I mean, there's still plenty of receivers out there, even with the run, to me be happy with whoever comes in the 5th round here, the 6th round. I definitely don't want to get crazy and try to switch for no reason, because then you're starting reaching for guys that probably shouldn't be there as it is. I'd rather take the receiver with upside or the tight end, maybe a Hawkinson or a Dallas Goedert if I was going to reach, but definitely not David Montgomery. Sorry, Chad. He says his first draft, though. I saw on Twitter today, which is shocking to me because for a guy that does so much volume, first draft on August 2nd.
Mm-hmm. He's a yearly late bloomer.
Always does it. I don't know how that's discipline, man. I give him all the credit in the world for that.
Well, he comes into it and then he gets really in the way that he drafts. It's multiple drafts in the evening, sometimes 2 at a time.
He has a great system. I don't know how he does it, especially starting so late.
Let's recap the 4th round for everybody as we are almost through the 5th round here, about halfway through the 5th round, guys. George Kittle was the 5th tight end off the board tonight to Grant Dempsey, the FFPC Joe in the 12th spot. Dalton Schultz, as we pointed out, Darren Armani loading up at tight end there. Cranking the purple, Darren Waller in the 3rd. Dalton Schultz in the 4th. DJ Moore, 2nd straight receiver drafted by Kevin and Jamison Proctor. Breece Hall to Howard Bender. He made that pick live on the air, which we appreciate. Allen Robinson, the 2nd receiver drafted by the former FFPC main event champs Dano and Bo Lou. Ezekiel Elliott off the board to Michael Nazarek as his 2nd running back. Jalen Waddle to Chad Schroeder as his number 1 receiver. Marquise Brown will be the number 1 receiver for Schoop and Krautwurst. Brandon Cooks here, the 3rd receiver drafted by the FFPC Joe pair of Peter Koulibaris and Brian Gerber. Then you're looking at, Brandon Cooks there. Terry McLaurin to Rich Hribar. He now has 3 receivers in his first 4 picks. Cam Akers loading up in the backfield is Jay Scafariello and Dan Stigers, I beg your pardon on that. Cam Akers joining Jonathan Taylor there, and then Jerry Jeudy rounding out the 4th round here for John Daigle from 4for4.com. Ferrell, what do we make of the Broncos situation now that we know that the MRI or the tests that were done on Tim Patrick's knee have confirmed a torn ACL? Are we bumping up Sutton and Jeudy? Does KJ Hamler perhaps make an appearance now as well?
Yeah, I think Hamler is the guy that gets the biggest move. Sutton and Jeudy probably won't move any further, although I could make a case for moving Sutton up in that 3rd round, but I don't know where I would get the pushback in the receiver. So, yeah, it's a Hamler situation. It also makes you want to look at that tight end, both tight ends in the 21 personnel sets that Hackett is famous for running, and as a patch catcher, pass catcher, I tend to seed with the rookie.
You're seeing the comment from the Dizzle right now that he thinks Chad Schroeder is already sipping on his Victory Manhattan, and he has his red Auerbach cigar lit. Terp, I know Aiden said that he was off to a great start here in the YouTube chat room right now. Do you also think that Chad Schroeder is well on his way to a really strong team here?
You haven't seen any Kelsey at Mark Andrews' team so far. It's definitely something that Andrews, we saw go in the first round in one of these already multiple times. So to him to fall with Kelsey, I mean, with the format the way it is, top two tight ends in most people's eyes, you really can't hate him to start at all.
Yeah, I mean,
Chubb and then getting Waddle.
And Ferrell too. I mean, like, there is no way. I mean, I can't imagine that Chad envisioned that Mark Andrews, who has an ADP in this competition at the 112, I can't imagine that he thought Andrews was seriously going to be part of his plans here at the 207. But lo and behold, he falls an extra 8 spots, and Chad gets him there. And that's what I'm talking about with the pivot. And Ferrell, that's what you have to be able to do. Like, when the value falls, regardless of what your team is, sometimes you really just got to take it.
Adjust on the fly and live with it. And that's a situation there where, we're looking at 250 points from catches maybe here, as substantial touchdowns. He can find the receivers that he needs, and he's already doing pretty well at the running backs. I think he'll probably come up with some running backs as we move later into this draft of guys that Terp and you and I agree on have high upside that he can work within this system. So I like what he's doing.
5th round is complete, guys. Gabriel Davis to John Daigle here at the 501. Deontay Johnson to the FFPC Joe tandem of Scafariello and Steigers. I know I'm butchering that name. I'm probably butchering both of them, quite frankly. So my apologies if you guys are watching. Juju Smith-Schuster to Rich Hribar. Justin Herbert is the 2nd quarterback drafted tonight. Once again, going in the 5th round. Quarterbacks are cheap. And Koulibaris and Gerber grab him there. Rashad Bateman off the board to Schoop and Krautwurst. So they get the former Raven Marquise Brown and the current Raven Rashad Bateman back-to-back. Wonder who – oh, no, they can't – I don't want to spoil it, but there will be no Raven stack for the Deep End Fantasy Football podcast here. David Montgomery, 2nd running back drafted by Chad Schroeder. DK Metcalf is joining the FF Masterminds team as his 3rd receiver. That's Michael Nazarek. Chris Godwin to Dano and Bo Lou. Then you're looking at Patrick Mahomes to Fantasy Alarm's Howard Bender as the 3rd quarterback off the board. Amon-Ra St. Brown, number 1 receiver for the Detroit Lions, at least right now, goes to Kevin and Jameson Proctor. J.K. Dobbins and Antonio Gibson wind up the 5th round here. Dobbins to Armani, Gibson to Dempsey as we look at these teams right now. Dave the Dizzle Gerzak also saying that he likes Proctor's team from the 10 hole here. Barkley and Swift to start it off, and then a bunch of yellow. Cortland Sutton, DJ Moore, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Elijah Moore. And Ferrell, you're looking at some explosiveness on that squad and also a lot of volume, which that's the perfect marriage in what you're looking for early in the drafts in the pros versus Joe's format.
Yeah, and the Detroit Lions and the tremendous volume and catch numbers of St. Brown. And Terp has talked a little bit about the rookie in Detroit, but neither of us have discussed St. Brown much in these early shows, and he's consistently falling in this 5th round. You look at what he did last year, production would suggest that he should even go higher. Terp, do you have a feel for this receiver? Because it just seems like all he does is keep stacking stats upon stats. I think last year at the end of the year, I kept saying, wow, he's having some good weeks, but in reality, he was having a good season.
Great season. He's definitely undervalued in drafts right now. I feel like he's been talked about barely at nothing. I mean, you hear about all the other sexy picks around him, but being in Detroit, he's definitely somebody that falls into the radar a little bit, and he shouldn't. Like 5th round, 6th round. I mean, depending on the way this draft has fell with receivers getting crazy, I agree with Dave. I think Team 10 is probably, if not the best, one of the best teams so far.
Yeah,
just the way it's structured, everything on paper looks great.
Yeah, FFPC main event league champ and I believe varsity champ as well, former varsity champ. Scott Hoyt checking this broadcast out again tonight, maybe doing some research from guys he's going to be competing against in the main event. And he says he likes Team 10 as well. So obviously the Proctor's off to a great start here, 6 rounds in. Let's get through the 6th round, beg your pardon. Elijah Mitchell to Grant Dempsey. Lamar Jackson is now off the board to Fantasy Mojo's Darren Armani. Now through 6 rounds, Armani has 2 tight ends, a quarterback, 1 running back, and 2 receivers. Interesting team construction for them from the godfather of this.
Very bizarre.
It is weird. You don't see it. And hopefully,
I think he's trying to show off tonight.
We might get a chance to talk to Darren a little bit later, and maybe he can
pick his brain on this.
He's got to get a subscription to the Mojo. He's going to need some direction.
We talked about Elijah Moore to the Proctors, Michael Thomas then to Howard Bender, TJ Hawkinson, Zach Ertz, back-to-back tight end picks to Dano and Bo Lou, and then Nazarek, respectively. Darnell Mooney is the second receiver drafted by Chad Schroeder. Kyler Murray forms a bit of a hookup here for Schoop and Krautwurst to go with their Marquise Brown 4th-round pick. Josh Jacobs will be joining Leonard Fournette in the backfield for Koulibaris and Brian Gerber, Peter Koulibaris and Brian Gerber. Dallas Goedert is the number 1 tight end for Rich Hribar. A.J. Dillon and Adam Thielen complete the 6th round. Dillon goes to Scafariello and Steigers, and then Adam Thielen is the final pick to 4-for-4's John Daigle. What do you make of Daigle's team here, Terp, with the 2 high-volume running backs to start, and now he's pounding the receivers here, 5 of them in a row?
I love it. I mean, I'm not the biggest team
and Terp, let me set you up with this. That's difficult, at least for me. That would be difficult for me to do that when I'm on the end, knowing that now I got to wait 23 picks to see what happens to the running backs and the tight ends, right?
He definitely made the decision that he was just going to take all the top receivers available, wait on tight end, wait on quarterback, and it's worked out really well for him. I mean, Jerry Jeudy I thought would go higher tonight, obviously with the Tim Patrick news. That's great. In my opinion, he's only going to get up more by the time we get closer because Patrick was the sexy pick in Denver, especially where you're getting him. Now the targets are getting closer, so it's just Sutton and Jeudy. You don't know about Hamler. The tight ends are a little bit of a question. I think the Denver receivers are way undervalued. I expected them both to go higher than they're going, but the rest of his draft, Thielen, new offense that's going to throw the ball. Amari Cooper only getting 6 games from Deshaun Watson. It's a good spot for him. And Gabe Davis is the boomer bust, I guess, this year. I really like what Team 1 has done so far.
Turk, I think Hamler becomes the, as you say, sexy.
He's glad. He's
I'm not sure where he's going to show up. He's had a lot of injury issues.
That's his issue. Talent. Penn State guy, very talented kid coming out of college.
He's been very talented when he's been on the field, and the trainers are bringing him along. The trainers are bringing him along in this team very, very well. And I think at the tight end positions, there's receiver skills there. I'm all for Jeudy, but I wouldn't start throwing him up in front of these other receivers. And definitely, if I'm going to move anybody up, it's going to be Sutton. But I don't see anyone in the 3rd round that I want to move either of them in front of. Do you?
I personally, as of right this second, would take Cortland Sutton over A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Tyreek Hill.
Okay, very good.
Right.
Well,
everybody except Mike Evans and Michael Pittman, and they're close. Not Evans, but I think
you would put Jeudy right. You would put Jeudy right behind him. You would move.
I would put Jeudy right up. I would take him over Terry McLaurin, Brandon Cooks, Marquise Brown, and Jalen Waddle.
Wow. Okay.
Very
strong.
Well.
So as long
I'm on an island by myself on the Jerry Jeudy bandwagon.
Yeah,
most people do not like him this year, but I love Russell Wilson and I love that offense.
But yeah, and you don't have to take Jeudy that high. So when you do take him, tonight we didn't, and so I think Team 1 here gets Jeudy at a really nice price. Gabriel Davis moves up. I'm not a big fan of that, but yeah,
he's a boomer bust guy.
Cooper has dropped based on the injury news, the slight injury news that we got today or yesterday.
Yeah, we got that, but we also know that Watson is going to be back in mid-October. And I'm a little surprised he hasn't moved up. I mean, is the injury that concerning to Amari Cooper right now?
I don't think so.
Six games is scary, and maybe not this format, but if you're talking about like a football guys or a main event, having Jacoby Brissett throw you the ball for 6 games, I mean, he's almost unstartable.
But okay, so let me push back on that and say this, that we knew that Watson could have been suspended for the whole season. Like there was a non-zero chance of that happening, yet his ADP in this format was 6'11". Now that we know it's only 6 games, wouldn't you think if high-stakes drafters are taking him at the 6'11", wouldn't it stand to reason that it's going to be higher now that we know it's not the full season, that it's only going to be 6 games?
It's a big risk tolerance. I guess. It's a huge risk tolerance taking a guy like that, knowing that how good he could be. Because let's just say Watson doesn't get suspended at all. Where does Amari Cooper go?
Higher than the end of the 6th round term.
I'm saying he could go in like the 3rd, 4th round, possibly.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you really look at target share, who else is there? Donovan Peoples-Jones, question mark. David Bell, question. Njoku, question. They don't have anybody else.
Kareem Hunt, maybe.
I mean, Kareem Hunt, yeah. That's the running backs, a running team, but I mean, Amari Cooper with Deshaun Watson, I mean, he could easily be in the 3rd, 4th round.
Let's get to the 7th round here, guys. Amari Cooper, we're just talking about. John Daigle takes him at the 701. Jalen Hurts off the board to the 702. That is the FFPC. Jay Scapariello and Dan Steigers taking him there. Tony Pollard to Rich Hribar at the 703. Dawson Knox to Koulibaris and Gerber. Christian Kirk will be going to the Deep End Fantasy Football Podcast, that is, as their number 3 receiver. Joe Burrow goes to Chad Schroeder. No other Bengals on that team. That's interesting. So he gets Joe Burrow there at the 706. Devin Singletary, 3rd running back to Michael Nazarek, followed by Kadarius Toney. He's the 4th receiver drafted by Dano and Bolu, the former FFPC main event champs. Alan Lazard, Terp's favorite Packers receiver, going off the board at 709. I know Dave just loves the value there. Treylon Burks right after that. Oh my God, how are you not just gritting your teeth and just going crazy that your boy goes right 1 pick after Alan Lazard? Treylon Burks to Kevin Proctor and Jameson Proctor there. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the penultimate pick of the 7th round, going to Darren Armani, and then Devontae Smith is the 2nd receiver drafted by Grant Dempsey here at the final spot of the 7th round. Lazard over Burks, Terp. At the risk of giving you, some sort of aggravation and poor mental health here, I don't know if you can defend that pick here for Howard Bender when Burks was still out there.
9th round, Alan Lazard last night. I don't like the player, but it's fine. It can't really hurt you. 5th round, 6th round, 7th round Lazard over some of these other guys that are getting drafted after him. Forget Burks for a second. That's obvious for me.
Yep.
Devonta Smith, Renfro. I mean, no chance. I mean, there's just no way that I could ever process that. I mean, like I keep saying, Alan Lazard has, a good rapport with Aaron Rodgers, but he's still going to be going against number 1 corners. It's not like he's an overly talented guy that, just was hiding in Green Bay.
Terp,
I have a question for you.
Go ahead, Ferrell.
I know you don't like Lazard. I don't exactly know what you don't like about him. It's not really important that I know. But what I want to know, where on the draft board would you consider taking him?
Exactly where he got drafted last night. I mean, I would take some shares.
Buddy, I can't remember what I did this afternoon. Where did he get drafted?
Lou took him in the 9th round last night.
Okay,
that is exactly where I would consider a player like Alan Lazard.
You would consider Lazard in the 9th.
Which I'll never see him there anymore, but that's where I would consider him, yeah.
6'5", 8 touchdowns last year, and a lot of responsibility this year. I guess I kind of want to know what you don't like about him.
Devontae Adams isn't there, number 1. And people are going to say, well, the targets are going to open up. Yeah, but Devontae Adams took all the attention from the defense.
True.
What happens now? Who's taking the attention of the defense? You think they're going to be scared of Alan Lazard? And yeah, I know
they're going to compete with Alan Lazard. He's no Devontae Adams.
And Alan Lazard has never really been impressive as it is. I mean, yeah, he scored the touchdowns last year, but he hasn't had a great career in Green Bay. So you're going to tell him he's going to go against the Jalen Ramseys of the world, the Darius Slays of the world, guys like that every day?
Mm-hmm.
Not in the 6th round over Michael Thomas, over Elijah Moore, Mooney. I mean, just guys that are going in that range. No thanks.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I thought was interesting from Matt LaFleur's press conference, I believe yesterday, Aaron Rodgers said that last year and previous years under LaFleur, 80% of the passing plays that the Packers ran, 80% of them was for Devontae Adams. He was the primary option. And Matt LaFleur had the opportunity to debunk that. And LaFleur said, no, that's probably pretty accurate, which is interesting now that we get to a situation this year where there's no Adams and we really don't know how they're going to structure the plays and structure, there's no way they're going to run 80.
It might be the biggest question in the offseason in all of fantasy sports, because you still have Aaron Rodgers there. So you have the positive, obviously. You have a team that's going to throw the ball, but there's so many questions. I still think they find a way to add somebody. I keep hearing the rumors of Deontay Johnson, a possible deal, or,
I would be really surprised if the Packers swung a trade. I would not be surprised. And I guess that it's one of those things right now. I can't tell if the media is really pumping up the Packers receivers because they sort of have to because it's Darren, or if Romeo Doubs really is looking awesome, as has been reported. Sammy Watkins has been looking really good since he came off the NFI list as well. Alan Lazard obviously made some pretty good plays in practice this week. He had one bad day of practice as well. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like if you nail the Packers passing game right, you're going to have a leg up on your competition in this format. 8th round, guys, let's get through it. A lot of quarterbacks going this round. Hunter Renfrow to Grant Dempsey. Dak Prescott doubling up on quarterbacks is now Fantasy Mojo's Darren Armani. We say it's hard to get away with a tight end and a quarterback early. What does Armani do? 2 tight ends, 2 quarterbacks in the first 8 rounds. You got to love it, kids. Russell Wilson to the throwbacks. That's Kevin and Jamison Proctor. Chase Edmonds off the board to Howard Bender. And then Dano and Bo Lou took Rashad Penny as their 3rd running back. Tom Brady off the board to Michael Nazarek. The rookie Drake London in Atlanta goes to Chad Schroeder as his number 3 receiver. Kareem Hunt and the Magic Cord, respectively. A couple of running backs here. Hunt to Schoop and Krautwurst. Patterson to the GG crew. That's Peter Koulibaris and Brian Gerber. DeAndre Hopkins, who's going to be missing some time early in the season, he goes to Rich Hribar as his number 5 receiver here at the 8-10. Trey Lance, back-to-back quarterbacks for Scafariello and Steigers as they go Hurts in the 7th. Now Lance in the 8th. And Brandon Ayuk, the 6th consecutive receiver drafted by John Daigle from 4 for 4. Now that is, got it. Brandon Ayuk, 6th straight receiver. Pretty interesting stuff here. Now, let me ask you this, Terp. You look at going quarterback early, and I'll put early in quotes, in the 7th and 8th round here, Hurts and Lance. Maybe not the most ideal situation, but when you consider the upside and knowing that second place gets nothing in this format and you have to win the whole thing, could that Hurts and Lance strategy here in the 7th and 8th be something that you could get behind?
With the structure of the team, yes. The way the team's structured, I mean, realistically, they have Jonathan Taylor, Akers, Dillon, now Miles Sanders, and then 3 really good receivers. So this structure, you can easily get away with that. You're taking the upside play in Lance and I would say a pretty safe bet in fantasy football this year in Hurts. You have Lance, with Debo, who just got paid, which is always a good thing. So with this structure, I think it very much can work. I've done double quarterback, tap, 7th, 8th, 9th round, try to get 2 studs and then just stop. So it's definitely workable, but the structure of how your team's above means a lot, because if you're getting too crazy, it could lead to a disaster.
Ferrell, we look at this draft tonight and the way it shook out as far as the quarterback situation goes. No quarterbacks in the first 2 rounds, 1 quarterback through 4 rounds, 3 quarterbacks through 5 rounds. Is this a strategy when you're trying to just beat 11 other teams? Do you still find yourself waiting on quarterback, or would you strike while the iron's hot here if you could get Herbert in the 5th or Patrick Mahomes in the 5th? Is that something you'd be all over, or would you still be willing to wait and go elsewhere?
I've got to look at the rosters and see if I think these guys are going to double up or go another place. I guess if I'm team 5, no, where are our quarterbacks? Are team 1?
Justin Herbert went to team 4 here. That was Koulibaris and Brian Gerber.
So everybody's covered but 1 and 8. Right. Everybody's
Yes,
got a
1 and
quarterback.
8. Yep, you're right.
So if
Yep.
I'm sitting at 8 now, wow, I don't know. It would, I'm not looking at that board. So it's a tough question. But I really like the Hurts Lance combination because I think that Hurts continues to do what he's supposed to do with getting points as a dual threat quarterback, and the upside of Lance that everyone believes in. I can afford that as a second quarterback. If I had Lance on a team, I would probably if I had those two guys on a team, I would probably add a third quarterback later, a traditional drop back quarterback. Terp, I want to go back, Terp, and ask you a question on the quarterback situation in Cleveland, because I agree with you. Jacoby Brissett does not get your pulse quickened and get you too excited. But when he was a starter, he led a team to 500. He had some 300 and 400-yard games. I remember the 400-yard game against the Raiders that his team actually lost. But they start the season. Panthers, Jets, Steelers, which they get at home, Falcons, Chargers, Patriots.
Schedule stinks.
Don't you think he can live through that?
I think he could live through that, but I don't think they're going to give him the keys to the offense. I think that's going to be a lot of Chubb, a lot of Hunt,
right.
just a good amount of running, some play action passes, getting the tight ends involved with Njoku and Harrison Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Amari Cooper is going to get his. The question is how much. Is Amari Cooper startable with Jacoby Brissett? That's hard. If you can, in a season long, in a main event or a football guys, drafted Amari Cooper, he's a perfect guy you can just put on your bench and then just get there, get the 5-1 start, the 4-2 start, score a lot of points, and then just ride Amari Cooper when Deshaun Watson comes back.
Let's get through the 9th round, and then we got a question for Turf in the YouTube chat. Damian Harris finally breaks the streak of 6 straight receivers to John Daigle. Damian Harris, the 3rd running back drafted by 4-for-4's John Daigle. Miles Sanders off the board as the number 4 running back to Scafariello and Steigers. Matthew Stafford is going to be the starting quarterback for Rich Hribar, who gets the Cooper Cup Matthew Stafford stack. Nice work there. Chris Olave to the GG crew, Peter Kubularis and Brian Gerber. Sky Moore to the Deep End Fantasy Football Podcast, Mike Schoop and Adam Krautwurst. Ramondre Stevenson now to Chad Schroeder, followed by Robert Woods to Michael Nazarek. Irv Smith, the 2nd tight end drafted by Tim Deneau and Tim Beaulieu here in the 8th spot. This is the 908 pick. Rondale Moore to Howard Bender. Pat Freiermuth is going to be the top tight end for Kevin and Jamison Proctor. Russell Gage and Tyler Lockett end the 9th round. Gage to Fantasy Mojo's Darren Armani. Tyler Lockett to Grant Dempsey. I apologize. I can't remember who asked it before, Terp, but somebody in the YouTube chat wants to know who your number 1 favorite player in fantasy is this year. Not the guy you take at the 101, but your favorite player to draft this year.
Can I pick 2?
Sure, go ahead.
Number 1 is easy. Number 1 is easy. Travis Etienne.
Okay.
I talked about it a million times. And number 2 is Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton was, before the whole Tim Patrick thing, was a guy I'm very highly exposed to. They're definitely the 2 guys. Somebody off the wall would be James Cook.
Oh, okay. All right. That's interesting. Now, as long as you say ATN, we have not talked about Schoop and Krautwurst squad tonight from the 5 spot, but they did get ETN there, and obviously goes with Eckler. They got Pitts in the 2nd. Been pounding the receivers. Obviously, Kyler Murray, Marquise Brown stacked there. Christian Kirk, Kareem Hunt, Sky Moore late. Ferrell, what do you make of that roster right there and what they're doing right next to not only Chad Schroeder, but drafting next to a pair of FFPC Joes as well?
They're hitting some of our favorites. Bateman is not particularly one of those, but I don't mind where they got him. I think Mr. Krautwurst has always been a big fan of Kyler Murray, so that probably pleased him to get Murray in the 6th round. I expect Kirk to blossom in Jacksonville. Kareem Hunt, Dave just talked about how he's going to be key for the Browns in the first 6 games. And we all love Sky Moore here, despite the early injury returns. I'd like to see him add a rookie running back in the 10th round, if still available. But other than that, he's off and running. And Krautwurst is always going to be challenging at the top. He's that kind of draft.
One of the top 2 drafts so far.
And Terp, I apparently I misread it. But it was FFPC. Aiden wants to know not your favorite player, your least favorite player to draft. I'm guessing it might be an Arizona Cardinal. Am I right?
I have 1% of James Conner and through 151 drafts so far.
Wow.
So
was that a mishit? Did you hit that one wrong, or how did he get on there?
Yeah.
I think I was just bored. Him and Zeke are in the 1% range.
Yeah.
It's just they're always a pass for me. I just can't do it.
But Terp, just the Cardinals' offense in general, you don't like.
Yeah, I don't have much Kyler Murray. We talked about that. I have a lot of Rondale Moore just because he's cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Marquise Brown I'll mix in just because he has the spike weeks, especially in best ball. But the Cardinals' offense is a minority, but I think explosion's coming. I think that team's going to be a disaster this year.
Ferrell,
you have no interconnectivity to the Arizona Cardinals, but you must be in a strange position with the way that you love CeeDee Lamb. You're high on Prescott. You're not as high on Schultz as I am, but I think you like him. And what you have to rely on Zeke to do to make things work for those guys puts you in a real love-hate relationship. So you do have something tied to Ezekiel Elliott. It's largely related to pass blocking.
That's fair. Tony Pollard's a sexy pick. He's always going to be the sexy pick, but is he really somebody that you can start in a football, guys, or start in a main event? I don't think so. But Zeke's fine. I don't think he's a league winner. I don't think he's a best ball winner. I think he's a guy that, will be fine, but there's plenty of other guys in the 4th round that are way better in my opinion.
10th round about to be complete, guys. Derek Carr led things off here. He is the second quarterback drafted by Grant Dempsey. Marquez Valdez-Scantling joins Fantasy Mojo squad, who I want to talk about in a second, has his number 4 receiver. Ken Walker, the rookie out of Michigan State, now in Seattle, goes to Kevin and Jamison Proctor. Mike Gesicki will be the top tight end, drafted as the 13th tight end off the board to Howard Bender. Aaron Rodgers goes to Dano and Bolu here in the 10th round as their top quarterback. Couple of running backs here. Melvin Gordon now to Michael Nazarek. James Cook off the board to Chad Schroeder at the 10:07. Chase Claypool, the wide receiver 51 in this draft, and he is actually the 5th receiver for Schoop and Krautwurst. Cole Kmet doubling up on tight ends is Koulibaris and Brian Gerber. Rashad White off the board to Rich Hribar. Albert Okwuepenam, the number 1 tight end for Scafariello and Steigers, and then Kirk Cousins will be starting at quarterback for John Daigle's team. Guys, I want to tell you about my little brother. Not little anymore. He turns 40 here pretty quick. But he was always sort of aloof as a kid. And I was always like, why? I said to my dad, why is he always out of it? And he said, son, your brother's mind is going at 90 miles an hour and the rest of ours are going at 40. I said, how does that make any sense? Because he never knows what's going on. And my dad told me the reason his mind is going at 90 miles an hour is because he's got all these other things going on in his head, and he still has to be able to live and figure out what's going on in his surroundings around him. I'm wondering if that's what's going on with Darren Armani, that he knows something about this format. Nobody knows the format better than Darren Armani. Look what he's doing at the 11th spot. I can't explain it, but I can't call him out on it because I think he might know something we don't. Ferrell, what's going on with Mojo here? 2 tight ends in the first 4 rounds, 2 quarterbacks in the first 8 rounds, still only 2 running backs named Dobbins and Edwards-Helaire.
Mojo hasn't drafted enough in Kentucky to get into the swing of things. That's his biggest problem. He's drafted some, but
always
not
comes
enough.
back to Kentucky. I love it.
I don't. Well, it's necessary.
Always selling. Always selling.
It's necessary, and I don't know, but I think the double-digit rounds will prove that Darren Armani's formula is successful because he knows the double-digit picks that should have been picked in the single-digit rounds, and that's what he's going to unveil on us here in the second half of the draft.
Michael Nazarek, the fantasy football mastermind, is drafting in the 7. You just saw the quote from the Dizzle saying that he did a pretty good job here getting Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams in this and locking up that Denver backfield. Terp, is that something that you do? We talk about stacks all the time. Do you ever look at targeting backfields and locking up backfields, especially when there's only 2 dominant guys there?
Never, because it's just Melvin Gordon pick. You're pretty much hoping that Javonte Williams gets hurt.
No.
How are you both going to get? How are you going to get the top value with 2 guys?
Well, they're going to carry the ball 450 times between them. One of them's going to carry it 225, and
I could see doing that in like a football guys are like a season long, but I'm taking somebody else's handcuffs.
So
Not
okay,
guys that
They're
are on
not
my
a
team.
handcuff, Turp. Both those running backs could score on the same weeks, especially when he only has 4, and one of them you don't like already in Ezekiel.
Yeah, but you're talking about your second round pick. We're not talking about like a Singletary Cook type of situation where the capital's better. You're talking about backing up your second round pick and saying they're both going to get carries.
Would
I
you
don't see
make
the
the
upside in
same
that play.
move? Would you make the same move with Henderson and Akers?
It would be more than likely than Javonte Williams and Gordon. I probably still wouldn't do it. I'm a handcuff of another team guy. I'm never, ever, unless it's like 18th, 19th round type of thing. That's different because it's kind of free in drafts. Like a Hassan Haskins with Derrick Henry, if I was going to do it.
I don't think you can call a 55-45 carry split a handcuff.
But not with a second round pick. We're talking about a second round pick here. We're not talking about a 5th or 6th or 7th round pick that you're taking Melvin Gordon with. You're talking about the second round capital.
Uh-huh.
To me, guys, and I see both sides of this. I think this is a philosophical thing. You know, I look at it from Ferrell's point of view. Gordon and Javonte Williams could both put up really good numbers this year, and that could, really lock you into solid volume every single week. However, if he was to go with, say, somebody like if Nazarek went with like James Cook or Rashad White, and Fournette goes down or Singletary goes down, now all of a sudden you have this wild card here. You got this cheat code in the 10th round that you can't get with Melvin Gordon. And I think that's the philosophical thing that it comes down to. Do you want to get the safety and locking up a backfield, or do you want to, I don't want to say go for broke, but if you want to take the chance and maybe something goes your way with, Fournette and Singletary, and all of a sudden you got a starting running back.
There's one winner in this format. I feel like you got to put the most upside, especially with these running back dart throws later, to give yourself the best chance to win.
Okay, I have one more question on this just because I want to know. Dalvin Cook is a first-round pick. Madison then is an 11th round pick, and that is a true handcuff because Madison doesn't play enough to warrant scoring in this or any other format unless Cook goes down. Don't you like a situation where both players play better than the Madison Cook selection?
I don't believe in handcuffs. I'll just make that as clear as possible.
I don't believe in them either, but I'm not so sure you can identify them because I don't believe that Gordon and Williams are a handcuff.
Cook and Alexander Madison, as Ferrell just mentioned, handcuff was met by Dano and Bolu here as they get that Vikings backfield locked up. Let's get through the 11th round here. David Njoku to John Daigle is his number 1 tight end. Tyler Boyd off the board as the number 5 receiver for Scafariello and Steigers. Damian Pierce, the rookie running back in Houston, goes to Rich Hribar. Julio Jones rises up a little bit tonight as the FFPC Joe tandem of Peter Koulibaris and Brian Gerber take Jones in the 11th tonight. Darrell Henderson off the board to Schoop and Krautwurst, followed by Justin Fields as the second quarterback drafted by Chad Schroeder. Noah Fant off the board to Michael Nazarek, followed by Alexander Madison to TNT. Just mentioned that. Gerald Everett, the second consecutive tight end, drafted by Howard Bender here after he goes Gesicki in the 10th. He gets Everett in the 11th. Tyler Algier to the throwbacks. That is Kevin and Jamison Proctor, followed by James Robinson in Jacksonville. Now to Darren Armani for Fantasy Mojo. Hunter Henry backing up George Kittle for Grant Dempsey's squad here in the at the 12 spot. Guys, do we have a preference between and I always screw it up if it's Algier or Algier here. Do we have a preference between him and Patterson when you consider the draft capital? You look at Koulibaris and Gerber getting Cordarrelle Patterson tonight at the 8:09, and then Algier going to Proctor and Kevin and Jamison Proctor here at the 11:10. Terp, do you have a preference on the value there of which player you'd rather have in that Atlanta backfield?
It's a slight lean toward the rookie. I mean, you saw what they did to Patterson's usage at the end of last year. It wasn't great. I mean, he was a league winner through 8 weeks, 9 weeks, 10 weeks, and then just kind of fell off the map. I really feel like they're going to give the rookie a chance. There also could be a guy that nobody's seeing right now easily find a way into that job. No job is secure in Atlanta right now when it comes to the running back position. You could easily, Camp Darling take that job.
Alvin Kamara, guys, I can't remember if we talked about him last night or not, but he is rising not only in the pros versus Joes, but in the best ball tournament format. Football Guys Players Championship, FFPC main event. There's been some chatter in YouTube tonight in our chat room whether he is going to be suspended, what's going to happen with the legal process being carried out. But I can tell you this, that he was going as late as the mid-4th just 5 days ago in the FFPC best ball tournament. And now he is up to the 208. Tonight he goes at the 210. Ferrell, is it wise to be in business with Alvin Kamara at that level, knowing what we know now?
Knowing what we know now is what we knew the other night. And it sure was a lot more fun to draft him in the 3rd round. I think Terp defined it succinctly the other night, is that we're not going to have any decision until 2023 on his suspension, and he's going to be available. And whoever's been getting him in the 3rd round is getting gold if that holds.
Justin Fields and Darnell Mooney. I think we've talked with Ferrell about this on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour Friday edition before. Terp, what do you? I know you like Mooney quite a bit. Is Fields worth the stack with Mooney in this format?
Absolutely. I mean, he's the perfect QB2 on your team. There's really nothing negative you could say about him. I mean, he gives you the rushing upside. Hopefully, with the new coaching staff, we got rid of the Matt Nagy's and that idiot regime that they had. So I've heard some good things in camp. So there's a lot of growing pains, obviously, with the first year in the offense. But you're talking about Mooney with a huge target share. You're talking about Cole Kmet. One of these other guys, the Jones or the Pringles, are going to, hopefully emerge. But Fields is going to give you a good, solid QB2 numbers, with upside. I mean, he's not Trey Lance. He doesn't have the Trey Lance upside, but he's not that crazy far off from it. If things go right.
I don't know if it's because the drafters tonight have seen 5 Pros versus Joe's boards already or witnessed 5 of our broadcasts here, but this one is motoring along a little bit faster here.
We're
already in the 13th here. Let's get to the 12th round and tell you what happened there.
If they've witnessed 5 of our broadcasts, we need to get them some therapy.
Seriously.
Nicole Hardman to the 1201 pick tonight to Grant Dempsey. Jalen Tolbert, the fast-rising rookie in Dallas, goes off the board to Darren Armani at the 1202. Jahan Dotson to Kevin and Jamison Proctor, followed by Deshaun Watson is the 4th pick of the 12th round. He goes to Howard Bender there to back up Patrick Mahomes. Evan Engram, the third total tight end drafted by Danone Bolu, going with Hawkinson, Irv Smith, and Ingram are the former FFPC main event champs. Michael Gallup, the 2nd Dallas receiver drafted in the 12th round. This pick going to Michael Nazarek from Fantasy Football Mastermind. Garrett Wilson, another rookie receiver here, going to Chad Schroeder here in the 12th. Trevor Lawrence joining Kyler Murray in the quarterbacks room for Schoop and Krautwurst and the Draft Sharks Deep End Fantasy Football Podcast. Kenny Galladay going to Koulibaris and Gerber, followed by Isaiah Spiller as the 3rd consecutive running back drafted by Rich Hribar here at the 3rd spot. A couple of receivers end it here. Jarvis Landry to Jay Scafariello and Dan Steigers. And then KJ Osborne, another receiver for Rich Hribar here as he's loading up peeing yellow, as the kids say. And I think I said that right. The final pick of the 12th round goes to John Daigle, and it is KJ Osborne. What do we make of Isaiah Spiller? Who now, I know we talked about him briefly, I think with, was it the Irish CEO, Shane Wingard? I know we were talking Spiller with somebody, or maybe it was Doug Orth. They're all blurring together right now, but I know we talked to one of the guests about Spiller. What do you guys view as Spiller? And I'll throw this to you, Terp. What do you guys view Spiller as this year? Is he simply a backup to Austin Eckler, or is he going to have some standalone value?
The Chargers, they definitely don't want to overwork Austin Eckler. I think they drafted Spiller for a reason. They definitely don't like what they had. They were Roundtree and Joshua Kelly, I think it was. So they're going to give him every chance to be a, serviceable, 10 carry a game guy possibly. I don't think he's going to get the goal line work or any of that stuff, but I think he's going to spell Austin Eckler, how they want to build that offense. So also Eckler's actually, obviously a smaller guy. So Spiller is definitely a good, 1-2 combo with him. He's a rookie, so you got to worry about pass blocking and all that stuff, especially with that team who likes to throw a ton. But I definitely like Spiller. He's definitely a handcuff I've been targeting a lot.
And Spiller is a player, unlike Kelly and unlike Jackson, in that second role of running back, who can score the ball from anywhere on the field in his own right. I've warmed to this player, and I like him. And I would have liked to have seen Team 5 take him. I know that, and I'm getting close to getting in handcuff territory there, but Spiller has a different sort of upside because we haven't seen it yet. And I didn't particularly like this player compared to some of the other running backs when we started back in February. I like him a lot more now, and his landing spot has something to do with that.
Guys, I want to bring in our next guest, FFPC Pros versus Joe's Royalty, really FFPC Royalty, a guy who is a league champion, a former league champion of the Pros versus Joe's, a guy who's had a lot of success in the FFPC. Perhaps it's because he is the number one source for FFPC ADP. He is the creator of the Pros versus Joe's competition. You follow him at Fantasy Mojo. He supplies all the ADP for our show. We'll welcome in right now to talk about this behemoth he is drafting from the 11th spot, Darren Armani, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into the broadcast, man. How you doing?
Good. How you guys doing?
We're doing excellent. We've talked about
better than you are with this draft.
We've talked
Come
about
on
your team.
now.
We've talked about your
Cowboys. Come on,
team.
man.
Well, not so. Tom,
Look, it's fantasy. We're not at the link. This is fantasy.
That's fair.
I don't know why you go like Cowboys. Like, why is that? I look at 2 purple picks in the first 4 rounds. I look at 2 purple picks and 2 red picks in the first 8 rounds. Darren, you're throwing your own ADP on its ear tonight. What's the strategy? What are you
These
doing?
running backs too.
I'd love to hear the thought process.
Well, first of all, throwbacks is a pain in my ass. They've been sniping me, and I knew that was going to happen. These guys have won multiple 1250 leagues. I know about them. I was going to take Barkley, and then I had to pivot. So I went with the obvious Diggs, and then that sent me down the Cowboys path with Lamb, and then I did want to take at least 1 or 2 early tight ends, knowing how these boards flow in these slims. That 11 spot is right where those later tight end, the end of that tier for the premium tight ends goes. So I grabbed Waller and Schultz, and in the slim format, looking at the data last year of the winners, if you don't grab at least 1 tight end in the first 5 rounds, you have a less than average win rate for your league.
Oh,
You have to grab 1.
Surprise.
But you grabbed 2.
I grabbed 2 because, when I looked at the data, it kind of goes up. 1 or 2. 2 is a sweet spot. 3 is too much. So I was going to go 1 or 2, but with the Cowboy stack sort of evolving, that's why I went 2.
All right, so let me stop you right there, Darren, because I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. You knew that Chad Schroeder already had 2 tight ends. The sweet spot for you, looking at the data, is 2 tight ends in the first 5 rounds. Did you think if you didn't grab Schultz right there would not be another tight end when it came back to you in the 5th round worth his salt, and then you would probably pass on him in the 6th as well?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't going to go Hawkinson.
Okay.
So I knew that's sort of where it would dry up for me. And but then the quandary is, I got to deal with the running backs. But if you look at the Pros versus Joe's drafts last year, who the winners were, it wasn't running backs that won it for these guys. In fact, the overall winner had complete garbage at running back. He drafted CMC. He drafted Trey Sermon was his number 2, and I think Gus Edwards was his number 3. So running backs isn't critical to winning this. So you can go down a different path and still have success. So I'm just gonna have to solve it with volume, and with the best ball format, it's going to optimize and put in the right guy for a given week. So I'm going to be leaning on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think both Sermon and Edwards are still available, Darren. So
yeah, I mean, that's why not? We could get as much of that San Fran backfield as possible.
So I'm looking at the winner from last year, and his name's escaping me. I only know that his first name's Eric because
Eric Rubin.
What's your name?
Eric Rubin. Thank you so much. That's who it was. McCaffrey, Sermon, Gus Edwards, Latavius Murray in the 12th, Chuba Hubbard, and then Darrell Williams obviously helped him out in round 16. But yeah, I mean, then it was Justin Jefferson in the 3rd, Cooper Kupp in the 5th were huge. Obviously Herbert in the 7th. Debo Samuel in the 9th round. I mean, that's where the bread was buttered there. Oh, and by the way, I'm on Ross St. Brown in the 15th round. Always helps as well. But he won it last year. So, okay, so we get that. That all makes sense, Darren. But then knowing that you had Schultz and knowing you had Lamb, knowing that Dak Prescott was probably at the forefront of your mind, what about the Lamar Jackson pick at 602?
Well, I don't want to tip my hand, but with Jackson has got a higher ceiling week to week. So I'm not going to go any more quarterbacks. So I'm just going to stick with the 2. So you go with the 2 higher premium quarterbacks, and I'll be good for the rest of the draft there. But he's going to have a higher ceiling week to week than Prescott's going to have. And then with Dobbins and Jackson, I've cornered the market on a rushing offense that's going to produce tons of rushing touchdowns. So there's some synergy in taking both of those guys. So that's why I went with that. Yeah, but I could see like people would argue you shouldn't take Jackson there, but having seen enough of these winners, it can work.
And if you've made up your mind at that point, I'm going to get Prescott here, and I only want to take 2 quarterbacks. It probably behooves you to take somebody there in the 6th or the 7th rather than to grab somebody to go with Prescott later. So that makes sense. Are any of these guys that you have drafted tonight now, as we are 14 rounds deep, Darren, are any of these guys players that are Mojo darlings over the last week or so? Guys that have either been rising or falling, and you're taking advantage of either the dip or the rise here?
Well, Tolbert's obviously rising, and he rose even more with the James Washington injury. And plus he feeds into my Dallas stack. So that's why I got him there. And if I looked at the previous drafts, I think he was going more 14, 15 round. Nico Collins has been rising, and so we'll see what else I got going on here. Russell Gage, that's like the Mojo brand. I'll take the Russell Gage. That's he's going to be heavily involved. But this is a tough draft. It's a tough room. Freaking Chad in the middle is just, that feeds right into his style of just taking the value as it comes to him. I was kind of surprised he went double tight end, but he knows too. He knows the power of the double tight end, the premium tight end.
Well, we talked about earlier. I mean, Mark Andrews, according to the data that we get from your site, he had no business falling to the 207. So Chad almost had to take him there.
Yeah, I thought about taking him there, but I just, you got 60 seconds to make a decision,
right.
And
yeah,
I knew if I passed him on there, I could still get 2 premium tight ends in the 3rd and the 4th as well.
Okay, so looking at this squad here, how do you sort of balance trying to become the overall champion in Pros versus Joes, rooting for the Cowboys, when you and Terp are both noted Eagles fans here, Darren?
Well, we put our allegiances aside.
One of you does.
Man.
One of you does.
Cowboys. That's a lot. That's 4, man. That's a lot. You would have took Zeke in.
Well, I didn't take Zeke. Zeke's the cardinal sin for high stakes bros. You don't take Zeke, or you're banished forever.
Don't draft him.
And that's been the rule for the HSBs for quite a while, like for the last 3 years. Like, this is not new.
Right, you kind of tip your hand that you don't belong if you take Zeke, so you don't want to do that.
I'm going to move him up.
Right. So,
Darren, you've been very gracious with your time here. I want to see if we can keep you on so you can make a couple of picks here coming up on the turn. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, is he a difficult player to figure out this season, or is it just, hey, like you took him tonight, 7th round, hope for the best, prepare for the worst? Pretty
much. I'll take who should be the lead back in that high upside offense. But when you wait on the running backs, then you're going to have some the chips fall your way. Same thing with James Robinson. That's the anti Travis Etienne pick, which high stakes bros aren't going to like seeing James Robinson have any success at all. But
is there any value here, Darren? And now that you have Lamar Jackson, Is there any value of grabbing Prochet or Duvernay later on, or is it just not worth your time, even with like a 19th or 20th round pick?
I mean, we'll see what's out there. I wouldn't rule him out. I think Duvernay got hurt. I don't know if that was a serious injury or not, but I've got some late round receivers. Oh, there goes Dubes, my favorite.
Yeah, he's rising up draft boards for sure as well. We have you on the clock now, Darren, right at the 15-11. Who's the pick going to be, man?
Well, let's see. Let's go. I'm going to go Kendrick Bourne. He seems to be the best option in that Patriots offense. And we'll see. I don't know who 12 is, this Satoshi guy. I'm not familiar with him.
I think he's mailing it in. Looks like 2 auto picks in a row.
Yeah, maybe he disappeared. Maybe he timed out. So then, what else we got? We're going to go. He took Marvin Jones.
Marvin Jones, Terp, you like him in Jacksonville or no?
Yeah, I don't mind him. I mean,
Okay, so he's fine here.
Yeah, 15th round, you can't really go wrong.
That's the old Joe Del Zanero Baker boy philosophy that there's no such thing as a bad pick after the 10th round.
I don't know about that.
Although some players have put that to the test that we've seen before.
They definitely have.
Not everybody subscribes to that either. Jamal Williams here is the first pick of the 16th round. Darren, who's it going to be here as you are loading up on receivers and running backs?
Let's take McKinnon, a little bit of CEH insurance, and this is a confined league, so that's not going to kill me. That's not something I would probably do in a football, guys, but here, so I've got 2 of the premier backs in that Kansas City backfield, theoretically.
And you got to fade Ronald Jones. That seems like an easy thing. You don't got to worry about that.
So I think we're good. We got 4 more picks, and then we'll wrap it up. You guys exhausted yet from broadcasting?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's starting to show with me. I don't know what the heck I'm doing.
Fatigue is setting in, right?
Yeah, it's setting in. And
I feel like you're talking about the same thing over and over.
Yeah, I do. And it's tough because you're always looking because I mean, every team's different.
Of course,
and
you're
every
looking for
build
something
is
different to say.
So we're always looking for different ways. Everybody wants to win the Pros versus Joes League to get their 2023 FFPC main event paid for, and there's a lot of different ways to do it. Darren Armani, we're looking at a one way to do it tonight. The thing I was going to ask you, Darren, and now it's escaping me. Locking up backfields like you kind of did here with the Chiefs, with the exception of Ronald Jones. That to you is more important when you're trying to beat 11 owners rather than 11,000, right? Or does it vary?
Yeah, in a confined league. Plus, it's a high upside team, right? So I wouldn't be doing that with say like the Patriots or something. That's the points are going to be there in that offense. So
would you draft Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon?
That's an expensive pairing too, though.
Well, Melvin Gordon's not though, right?
Well, he's
10th round.
10th round, but then Javonte's got to go in a second. That's like, yeah, I mean, I could see doing that. So somebody did do that. Mastermind did that.
Yeah, Mastermind did it, and then Ferrell pointed out too. Tim Deneau and Tim Beaulieu got the Dalvin Cook, Alexander Madison, which I mean, you're talking about a second and a 10th round pick, and then a first and an 11th round pick.
Yeah,
to do that. And I don't think necessarily anybody sets out to grab Gordon and Madison if they I mean, maybe they do, but I think that's just kind of like, oh, I'm trying to beat 11 owners. This guy's still available. It's the 10th round. It's the 11th round. Why not? And I don't think it's necessarily a bad pick for this format.
And these guys are smart. These are really good. I mean, these are Joes we're talking, like Schrader and TNT. I mean, as Joes, I mean, come on. I mean, these guys know and throwbacks is ridiculous too.
There's no value really falling in this league.
Nah, so you're just trying to take what you can and assemble like the best build that you can given. But you only got to win this league. So you don't have to think, 3-week sprint down the line. So that's beneficial too.
Ferrell, what are we looking at as far, because obviously Darren Armani has conquered the FFPC and the Pros versus Joes. Where are we at in his attack on the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship main event?
He is in the promissory area with Kentucky. He's flirting with some drafts as we approach the magic date of September. However, Darren is a busy guy, but I think he's going to have a record year in subscriptions to the Mojo. And I think the way that for him to take a celebratory lap for his success is to come and win Kentucky and restate his authority over fantasy football. And while it is a lesser prize, it is a fantastic trophy that will look good sitting behind him on that shelf where he appears to have some type of spice rack working or something. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
But you know what? All trophies shine bright in Philadelphia. So,
Yes.
Darren, listen, we really appreciate you not only hopping aboard tonight. Congratulations on a very interesting draft that I think could be a strong team here as well. And I know you've sold me on it now. Hearing your analysis of it. Good luck in the main event, football guys. All your drafts this year, and thank you for putting Pros versus Joes together again. Getting all these pros together, taking care of all the Joes. We really appreciate everything you do, not only for Pros versus Joes, but the FFPC as well. Thank you, sir. Kudos to you,
guys.
sir, and kudos again.
Thanks.
Have a good one, man.
All right.
Darren
Talk to
Armani,
you later.
ladies and gentlemen, at Fantasy Mojo on Twitter. Darren Armani hopping aboard to talk a little fantasy football. And guys, I feel better about his squad now, right? That I got the explanation.
A lot of stuff he said made a lot of sense.
It's too many Cowboys for you to fully get on board, but I feel like you're.
Well, what he said made sense. I mean,
right.
It sounded like rationalization and an excuse by a gentleman that really knows his numbers. But you know, does anyone have any idea about how effective Dobbins is going to be and how quickly it's going to be?
Big question mark.
Yeah,
and that's
and that's the thing. Like, you know, and Darren said, like, look, you know, I have locked up a lot of running back touchdowns there. And he very well might have, but at the same time, we do know that about the report that Ian Rappaport had a week or two ago, whatever it was, that within the organization, the Ravens aren't so sure he's going to be ready for week one. He thinks
they're not going to rush him back. Why would they?
There's no reason to, right? And they did sign Mike Davis up there. They still have the rookie Batty is there as well. I don't know what's going on with Gus Edwards. He's another injury guy, injured guy. So we'll see what happens there, but Dobbins certainly a question mark. However, he wasn't a second or third round pick. He's now a late fifth round pick is where he got him tonight. Gentlemen, let's do this as I want to keep the guest train rolling here, and we do want to welcome in royalty. In fact, along with his co-owner Timbo Liu, they won the 2011 FFPC main event. You follow him on Twitter at TDeno. It is Tim Deno from Team TNT. Welcome into the broadcast, Tim. We certainly appreciate you popping aboard tonight. I believe you are muted right now, and I have no way of controlling your mute. I don't know if you're talking to other Tim right now. But welcome to the broadcast, man.
We're just about ready to make a pick here, so I wanted to make sure that we didn't broadcast our two options right there.
And I'm looking at this team, and me being here in Northeast Wisconsin, I'm loving it. Aaron Jones in the second. You get Romeo Doubs here in the 15th. Aaron Rodgers in the 10th. And now Sammy Watkins. You're loading up on Packers here, man.
Yeah, that was not the plan. That was definitely not the plan. I wish I could tell you it was. No, I mean, you know, you just got to roll with the punches, right? And just try to find value. And it just worked out that way. But, you know, it's like the late options here with Dobbs and you know, Sammy Watkins. He always has those, you know, week one great games and then disappears. So we'll just take him for 1 week. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need him for anything else when you have all those other Packers on your team, and which you know, Dobbs could be a beneficiary of that. You never know. Talk a little bit about Chris Godwin and your expectations for the start of the season for him, Tim. When you and Tim are taking him here in the mid to late fifth, do you expect him to be out there right away, week one, week two?
Yeah, we actually looking at our team. We just, as we were getting on here, it was pretty much that's a pretty much hit or miss, make or break for our team, I think. I am anticipating him playing earlier than most people, but again, that's a chance you take. But I think we have enough depth to get us through. And I do think once he gets going, obviously Brady loves that slot guy, and Godwin's one of the best there that he's ever had, other than the man Edelman, obviously a Patriots fan here. But
great jersey in the background.
That's right. And that was a tough one, not taking Brady at that pick. I'll tell you, we definitely were looking at him. But long story short, I think that's definitely going to be a big factor on this team. But I do think Godwin will jump out early, and it will be the Godwin that we expect.
Tim, I got a question for you about TJ Hawkins. I took him in a draft the other day, and then I think I did a little bit of what you did. Were you excited to get this player, or did you have a little buyer's remorse? You immediately started adding tight ends, and I'm curious about your thought process on Hawkins.
Well, we got sniped on Schultz, not going to lie. That was who we wanted. We got sniped with Barkley. I would have taken him in the first as well. But again, going off ADP, was hoping he'd come there in the second. But long story short, the guys here that, once Hawkinson made it there, we thought that was good value. So we rolled the dice with him, but it's not something we definitely, sat out to try and, lock in on. The Irv Smith and Evan Ingram, those are the two of our guys that no matter what, I think we were planning on going in with, 3 tight ends. And those are guys that we really like the upside for. I'm big on Evan Ingram. I love the system. It usually produces a good tight end. Evan Ingram has the ability. I know he has the drops, but I think he makes for a hell of a home run play here.
Tim, let's talk a little bit about Rashad Penny here. You had the opportunity to go with either of those Seattle running backs. Why did you end up going with Rashad Penny over Ken Walker? And I know Penny does go earlier on ADP, but can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the Seattle backfield?
Just feel like the Seattle backfield, you always think it seems like they always draft somebody and that's going to be the next darling, and it's always the guy you don't think. So Penny's the guy that was already there. He knows the system. I think he'll get the first crack at it. And, I think he's going to – I actually like him a lot this year. He's one of my sleepers. Tim is kind of 50-50 on him. We were going back and forth. That was more of my pick there. But I think he's going to have some really good upside here. So Walker's obviously, I think, more sexy because he's the unknown. But I'll take the known in this one.
Kadarius Toney, I was going to ask you about him first, actually, since you actually took him before Rashad Penny. Kadarius Toney has an ADP in this format of the end of the 9th round. You guys got him in the mid-7th. Is he one of your players this year? That you think could be a pick-to-win type player? Well,
absolutely, but we just got hit with the Giants guys taking our players, so we figured we would need to go get him. I love
back. I love it.
I love the Daigle there. I think obviously he's a great offensive mind, right? And Toney, in that short window that he had, 2 games where he just looked so electric. What he could do with the ball once it was in his hands, after the catch, and with his creativity on offense, I think if he can stay healthy, I think he could be somebody that next year we're looking at as a 3rd-round pick. And as we always say, you don't pick off of this year, you think about where they could be going next year. And I want the guy who's going to go in the 3rd round next year. So if I have to go 2 rounds early to make sure I get him, we're going to do it.
Tim, question from the YouTube chat right now. Shane Hallam, who drafted in this format, I believe not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before, he wants to ask you about Irv Smith in the 9th round. Any concerns about the thumb surgery? The reports that we got said that he should be ready for week 1. He's obviously coming back from that torn meniscus in September, but it doesn't sound like you or Tim are concerned that he's going to miss a chunk of the season. He's going to be ready, right?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? But again, we're planning on going with 3. We just like we really like the upside of Irv Smith. I think he's, last year I was fairly high on him. Then he got hurt. That offense is very intriguing. It's a tight end focused offense as well. So I think that's an area of concern, obviously, whether he'll play all of those games. But I think when he does play, he'll be productive for us and an upside play as well. I think he has a chance to be that next breakout guy. So we wanted a piece of him.
Last question here, Tim, before we let you get back to the draft. Did you and Tim discuss roster construction prior to this? Like, okay, these are the players we like early, and as a result, this is how many quarterbacks we want. We should probably take this many tight ends. When it's all said and done, I'd like to have this many receivers on your team. Did you have any of those conversations prior to the draft?
Tim and I talk every single day fantasy football. So yeah, we did, not necessarily about the number of players. We really let the draft dictate that and our roster construction. I certainly didn't think we'd only have 4 running backs total, which really we only have 3 if you consider the fact that we handcuffed Madison. I know that's not a popular move here, but I think that Dalvin Cook is so injury prone. And at this point, we didn't see a lot of value. We wanted to lock up an RB1. And when Madison gets in there, he will solidify an RB1. So that was the plan there with this. And we're just hoping that our receivers will have the boom to win the whole thing. So that was our strategy. We did not come in. We did know that if we didn't get one of the top quarterbacks, we were going to try and go for 3. We got sniped on a few of them. Deshaun Watson was right before us. That was the guy that we were taking. And, it just worked out the way it did.
And hopefully this season will work out for you, winning $1 million as you try to go become FFPC main event champs again. Good luck to both you and Tim. Thanks for joining the broadcast tonight. And by the way, you can follow Tim on Twitter at @TDaneau. That's TDANEAU. Tim, you're the man. Thanks for hopping aboard. Good luck this season, dude.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you, Terp. See you, buddy.
Tim Daneau, ladies and gentlemen, popping aboard the show tonight. And he's going to go back to the green room and enjoy some tasty beverages and hors d'oeuvres that we leave out for all the players, virtually, of course, as we are heading into this home stretch here of Pros versus Joes 2022. 18th round is done, and if you like tight ends, you're going to love the 18th round. A lot of them went off the board here. Devin Duvernay is the pick selected by Grant Dempsey to kick things off at the 1801. Odell Beckham off the board. Now at the 1802 tonight, he ends up going to Team 11, who is Darren Armani. Jared Goff, the 3rd quarterback drafted by Kevin and Jamison Proctor there. CJ Uzomah to Howard Bender. Tim Daneau and Tim Beaulieu take the Zamir White selection, the Raiders running back there, followed by Deontay Foreman to Michael Nazarek. All the tight ends here, big tight end run. You're looking at Cameron Brate to Chad Schroeder. Then you're looking at Trey McBride after that to Schoop and Krautwurst. Peter Koulibaris and Brian Gerbert take, oh my God, really? Chigoziem Oquanico. I apologize to you and your family. I'm just
I don't even know what team he's on.
I don't either. There's a guy I haven't heard. With Chad Schroeder, I don't feel bad because he said earlier in the broadcast, when it gets to the last 3 rounds, I don't know any of these players. So, and I don't know if he's just saying that, but I don't feel bad about not knowing that guy. Adam Troutman, off the board after that to Rich Hribar, Randall Cobb to Scafariello and Steigers, and then Greg Dulcich is off the board to John Daigle. A lot of tight ends. Ferrell, do you find when you're drafting, whether it's football guys or best ball or best ball tournament main event, do you find that you can find some pretty good winning tight ends that will not necessarily carry you to the championship, but guys that can give you pockets of value throughout the season, even though we're at tight end 35 here now?
I have in the past, and in this round, the 2 rookies are, well, there might be more than 2 rookies, but McBride and Dulich, that's where I want to be in this round with the tight ends. And it surprises me a little bit that those guys are still available here. And I think that's going to change once the preseason starts, once we see these guys on the field in the NFL.
Ferrell, do you already have your DVR wound up for Hard Knocks? I think next Tuesday. This is the premiere.
Who's on it this year?
It is the Detroit Lions.
It's fantastic head coach quotes.
I was going to say, you can't ask for a better team.
It's going to be great.
Coach. A lot of talent on that team.
All the kneecap biting, all the espresso being served within espresso. It's going to be fantastic. Dan Campbell might get a spinoff after this. He might.
I'm one of these tech guys. I'm just one of these high-tech guys. I'm laying into HBO Max and NFL Plus to cover all the preseason games for me. So, and the Hard Knocks. So I'm in good shape.
That's smart play by Ferrell. 19th round, Isaiah Pacheco from Kansas City goes to John Daigle. Sony Michel off the board to Scafariello and Steigers. Marcus Mariota backing up Matthew Stafford for Rich Hribar, Chris Evans, and Samaje Perine going back-to-back here. Evans going to Koulibaris, and Gerber, Schoop, and Krautwurst end up taking Perine. James Prochet, the receiver for the Baltimore Ravens, to Cocktails and Dreams, a.k.a. Chad Schroeder. T.Y. Hilton to Michael Nazarek, followed by David Bell to Denon Bolu. Snoop Connor, the running back for Jacksonville, to Howard Bender. Byron Pringle off the board now to the throwbacks. That's Kevin and Jameson Proctor. Tyler Batty, Baltimore running back, to FantasyMojo.com's Darren Armani. And Rex Burkhead, still chugging along. God bless you, Rex Burkhead, as he gets to be the 19th or the pick, last pick of the 19th round here tonight, to Grant Dempsey. Boy, Armani Terp is still is loading up on those Ravens running backs. Hits another one here. Now he's Lamar Jackson's a quarterback, I guess, but Dobbins and Batty late here.
I mean, he's getting a good value with these guys. I mean, he could be the starter week 1. It's not the craziest thing in the world. I mean, it's probably going to be Mike Davis if Edwards and Dobbins aren't ready, but he's definitely going to get worked in. It's not like Mike Davis is some workhorse. So, I mean, he could get a couple of weeks, and maybe Tyler Batty turns into a player, first couple of weeks if Dobbins is out. And then, I mean, he could have that whole backfield locked up.
Yeah, and Shane Hallam pointing out in the chat right now, he still needs Mike Davis. Well, he's done with his picks tonight as Quez Walker.
You don't ever draft Mike Davis.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to get him. I mean, it's tough to get on board with a player like that who, yes, could get some volume, but at the same time, it's not great volume, right?
You saw 4th round Mike Davis, what he did last year.
It's one of those things where it's like pizza, right? Like there's no such thing as bad pizza, but not as good pizza really doesn't do much for you. That's
Correct.
Mike Davis. Not he's bad pizza. It's a new nickname on the high.
T.Y. Hilton's not that far behind.
Yeah, going to Michael Nazarek there. Ferrell, what do you make of T.Y. Hilton? I mean, you're not that far away from Indianapolis. What are they going to be doing with him? Are they going to re-sign him? Is he going to go somewhere else? What are you hearing?
Hopefully he signs in the AFC. I would have thought it would have happened in June. He needs to play Houston twice because he is the true owner of the Houston Texans, and that's why I would draft him. But no, there were better picks here. I wanted to talk with you guys and our owner, Team 10. Who is Team 10?
That is Kevin and Jameson Proctor, FFPC Joes.
As you lock down that number 2 position with the Chicago Bears, and such a Chicago Bear fan as Terp is, here in the 19th and 20th round, Pringle and Jones. I was beating the drum for Jones last night, but Pringle is an accomplished receiver, and one of those guys will be the number 2 receiver for this team, and I think that's a good move at 19 and 20 if you believe in Justin Fields, which I don't.
All right, guys, I believe in our next guest, and I'll bring him in right now. He's drafting tonight from the 2 spot, one half of the FFPC Joe Tandem, along with Dan Stigers. You can correct me on the name here. And I'm about to butcher his name, too, as well. But I want to welcome in Jay Scafariello, picking from the 2 spot. And I believe we have Dan as well. What's up, gentlemen?
What's
up, fellas?
What's up, guys?
So can you give us the correct pronunciation of your names? I've been doing a lot of different ones tonight. I don't think I've hit on it once.
Yeah, no, you're over for sure.
I can't win them all. It is what it is.
Balky, you must have the guest phonetically spell their names.
That's what I would need. All right, so let's keep last names out of it. Jay, you're picking from the 2nd spot tonight. Had to be pretty happy to see Jonathan Taylor there, right?
I think it's a toss-up between JT and CMC there. Especially in a best ball. We're 0 RB guys, but when we're talking about best ball, we like to hammer a couple RBs early if we can, because we don't have the waiver wire at our disposal. JT there for us is a smash. I know in a lot of these Pro V Joes, I've seen Kupp and Jefferson going 2, but for us, Taylor was a smash there.
Now, one of the things that we did talk about with your team is going with Hurts and Lance back to back. I don't know if you guys can, and I'll throw this to you, Dan. I take us behind the scenes here, not only with the Hurts pick, but then going with Lance in the 8th as well.
That made sense for us in terms of looking at a stack somewhere there. But for us, running quarterbacks are where the money's made. Right? We're looking for guys that are on good offenses. They're going to get a lot of ball control, but at the end of the day, can run touchdowns in. And so if you've got 2 high-end quarterbacks that are going to blow up and we double stack them at the end of the day, it works for us because essentially we're taking Debo with Lance, and Hurts is just the guy who's going to put a bunch of numbers up. We try to find a way in order to get a stack with him at the end, but it wasn't really working, but it doesn't really matter from our perspective.
Well, we kind of backdoored it with Sanders too. Sanders kind of fell a little bit there, and we figured, I know Sanders didn't score a lot of rushing touchdowns last year, but hopefully.
He's your fourth running back in the 9th round this year.
Yeah. I mean, that's for us. It was, like I said, we're not necessarily heavy RB guys. If you look at what we've done so far in football guys and what we will potentially do in the main event with our main events coming up. But Miles Sanders there in the 9th, and then stacking with Hurts. If Miles Sanders gets some positive regression on the touchdown end, you might get 20 rushing touchdowns between the two of those guys. So, and then also just to be done with 2 quarterbacks in the build and not have to worry about a third, it allows you to kind of hammer a couple extra wide receivers or running backs without having to worry about a third quarterback. Because obviously we went late tight end here, which we're not huge fans of, but kind of the way that things went. Not to have a third quarterback there was we felt was an optimal build there.
Dan, when you were talking with Jay beforehand this draft, how did you guys sort of decide how you were going to modify your drafting strategy in a 20-team best ball slim as opposed to the main events and the football guys teams you're used to?
I mean, at the end of the day, there's no waiver wire, right? So that kind of makes all the difference at the end of the day. You can't kind of grind the waivers in order to find the guys that you think might be able to play well in the next couple of weeks. So at this stage, you're looking for guys that can essentially have a breakout week almost anywhere out in the season where they can essentially play well. And of course, the freaking bye kind of burns for us a bit in a couple of weeks. But at the end of the day, without making a decision during the week and you can't grind those waivers, you've got to look for people with upside and put them on the team.
Jay, do you guys have a pick after round 10, the second half of the draft? Do you have a pick that you guys are really, fist bumping and really happy that you got on your team, a favorite pick in the last half of this draft?
I think 11 through 13, we were able to kind of get, Boyd, Landry, and Rojo there. I'm not really. I have not historically been a huge Rojo guy, but this year I've been getting a lot of Rojo. I just think the rushing touchdown equity in that offense with an undersized CEH who really kind of profiles more as a passing down back who's not great in pass protection. He could see 7 to 10 touchdowns in that offense. I think he's a great guy to go after, especially in this type of format in best ball where you don't have to worry about when he scores a touchdown. And then Boyd and Landry where, they're guys who are not necessarily you feel great about them and you don't feel great about plugging them in your lineup necessarily in managed leagues, but they're at the end of the year, they're going to end up with, 70 to 80 catches, 900 yards, 5 or 6 touchdowns. You don't have to worry about when those come. They're going to be in your lineup when those weeks hit. So I kind of like that 11 to 13 range. And we're huge Albert O stands. So, and then when Tim Patrick went down, I think Judy kind of was the first guy to pop up because there's a lot of concerns about, how many snaps is Judy going to play with Patrick and Sutton. When he goes out, I kind of think low key Albert O gets a bump. And we've already been drafting Albert O heavily, obviously with the tight end premium. He has freak metrics across the board. He's getting a great quarterback. I know Russ hasn't historically targeted the tight end, but he throws a lot of touchdowns. Albert O's kind of a physical freak. He's a big target in the red zone. So we're kind of banking on that Albert O pick as our tight end one. We don't like to necessarily wait to the 10th round to get tight end, but I think 10 through 13 is kind of a spot where we kind of felt like we kind of crushed right there.
So when you see the Chad Schroeder starting off tight end, you see Darren Armani going with 2 tight ends himself in the 3rd and 4th round. Did that affect the strategy of all because if I were you and if I liked Okwepenam, I'd kind of be like, okay, now everybody's going to want to grab tight ends. Let's grab the value that they're leaving out there. We'll grab Okwepenam in the 9th or 10th, and then we'll still get our guy, and we're going to scoop up value. Did you guys have any of those conversations at all?
Yeah, I mean, I basically called the fact that Andrews was going to go there. I was telling Dan, and what did I say?
Get double stack.
I said he's going to go bully tight end here because Andrews fell. I mean, that's a ridiculous value there. And then we had Pitts in the queue there, and we weren't expecting him to fall either. So once those three guys go off the board, we kind of knew we were going to probably target Albert O, just because a lot of these other guys tend to get pumped up, but it's tight end premium. And I mean, you need tight ends. But at that point, it was like, we didn't want to overpay. Andrews is a value. Pitts we really like. He was not necessarily a value, but he went in the appropriate range. But once you see Waller, Schultz, and Kittle go in that bunch there, we were drafting towards the front end. So it's more like, all right, we're going to read and react and just kind of play the board. And when we knew we probably knew we could get Albert O before the ADP bump versus we think that Albert O's ADP is going to jump.
Right.
I mean, that might not play out, but that's that kind of way that we're thinking it with the Patrick injury.
Right. Yeah. And we'll be following the Football Guys tournament and obviously the best ball tournament to see how that does play out now that this is the last night of Pros versus Joes. That'll be the only ADP we have until the main events really get cranked up here within the next week or so. And speaking of the main event, good luck to both you guys as you try to take home $1 million in the main event this year. Thanks so much for carving out some time during your draft tonight and talking a little shop with us. We'd certainly appreciate it. Rooting for you guys the rest of the way. Be good, and thanks for joining us. And I won't butcher the names. Thank you for appearing, Jay and Dan.
No problem, man.
Thanks, man.
Good luck, guys.
You bet. All right, guys. That was Jay and Dan drafting from the second spot tonight. Thankful that I and Shane, by the way, when the tight end that went tonight in the 18th round, Chigoziem Okwonoko, he said I nailed that name. So I will hang my hat.
You're really impressive with these names.
According to Shane Hallam, I got that one right. So it's a win. It was a win tonight. It was a win.
I've never even tried to say Alberto's name.
I listened. Well, when I was doing my local fantasy show, somebody would ask about him like seemingly every week last year. So I was watching all these videos and I was practicing because I knew I would have to say it at least once a week. And now I'm still not great at it, but I'm not butchering the whole thing.
He's the kind of tight end, Balky, that you would expect at the Tennessee Titans. And University of Maryland ran a 4.5, 6'2.5". He's exactly what they call for.
Well, now we know, and knowing's half the battle. You guys were fantastic. I would not have been able to make it through 6 of these drafts without you. Certainly appreciate everything you've added to the broadcast. Ferrell, at J Ferrell Elliott, at KFFSC. Check out the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship website at KFFSC.com. Register for those main events, and hopefully you can join Dave Terpoilli and Darren Armani playing Cincinnati, Louisville, or online this year, right, Ferrell?
Well, Dave Terp is I've had so many texts from players that want to meet Dave Terp. Mm-hmm. And I tell them that probably this year they'll have to come to Las Vegas. But, Kentucky will be an acquired taste for the Terp. But if we can get him here, he may never leave.
That's true.
You never know.
Yeah.
And you, Balky, are a broadcast professional. That's all I can tell.
Oh, thank you so much. You are literally way too kind. So Friday night, now we have to go our separate ways. Terp, you will be on the GOAT District show drafting what are you drafting? A best ball tournament on Friday?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
9 o'clock.
So 9 o'clock, Ferrell, you and I will be covering a Football Guys draft here, the live on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour draft at 9 o'clock. So while I'd love to say, hey, our live draft coverage is done, it's really not. We do have one more. And then Terp, you and I will be back at it at 10:30 Monday night covering a best ball tournament.
That is correct.
Awesome. I love it. Guys, you are the best. Be good. And Ferrell, I will see you Friday. Terp, I will see you Monday. Good luck in all your leagues until then.
Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, Ferrell. Thanks, Terp. Appreciate it. That is going to do it, ladies and gentlemen, for our Pros versus Joes broadcast coverage for this year. I want to thank tonight's guests, Howard Bender, Darren Armani, Tim Deneau, Jay and Dan, won't butcher the names here, for popping on. We really appreciate that. Thanks to Darren Armani for organizing the Pros versus Joes. I want to thank the FFPC, our producer and mutual friend, Rob, audio engineer, my best friend, Bryce, and of course, most of all of you viewing this, listening to it thanks for keeping the chat rooms awesome during this. We got a lot of great comments from you, a lot of great feedback. And, when we have that interaction with not only of the guests, but ourselves, and then you guys viewing it, that's the perfect, 3 is a magic number for a reason. And when we get all 3 of those components together, it makes for really, really good, fun, entertaining content, and fun to produce it as well. Main event drafts are off and running via the slow version at the FFPC, myffpc.com. Again, take a shot at $1 million. All the Joes who are in the Pros versus Joes, they are all playing for the main event this year as well. It's one of the prerequisites to get into the drawing for the Pros versus Joes. So make sure you're not only checking out the main event, but the Football Guys Players Championship, which has has drafts going on each and every day. They're popping off fast and furious now. You don't have to be waiting long for a Football Guys draft, so make sure you're popping those off. Best ball tournament, $125 to get in, $200,000 grand prize, $35 to get in the Superflex best ball tournament. That is a $10,000 prize. And of course, check out the Dynasty startups, plenty of slow, live, sit and go best ball options, all at myffpc.com. And don't forget about the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship main event going on at KFFSC.com. I already told you that Ferrell and I will be back on the HSFF Hour Friday, covering the live on HSFF Hour draft, Football Guys draft. That's always fun to cover each and every year. So we'll be on an hour early, 9/8 Central on Friday, probably again for about 2 hours on that broadcast. Terp and I will be on Monday, covering one of his live best ball tournaments. That's at 10:30, 9:30 Central on Monday. We'll be doing that right here. And tomorrow, I will be doing a show with Brian Harris, a guy who has won, probably close to 24 leagues last year alone, who's won a ton of leagues in the FFPC. He was in Pros versus Joes this year. We're going to talk with him tomorrow on the Road of His High Stakes Lowdown. Also on that on this channel tomorrow. That's at 10/9 Central as well. So a lot of great content coming your way. No excuse that you won't be prepared for all your FFPC drafts, since we're bringing in all the FFPC luminaries onto this broadcast and telling you what to do, what's worked out for them, and what not to do as well, which is sometimes is equally as important. Really appreciate all the feedback, all you guys hanging out and watching. Thank you so much. I will be with you again tomorrow night on the Road of His High Stakes Lowdown. Your week officially continues now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
By the way, one other thing I should mention, the draft boards, the final draft boards, will be posted on all FFPC, High Stakes Fantasy Football, or on my own social media, so you'll be able to check those out on Facebook and Twitter. They'll also be posted on the FFPC message boards. And if there is, this is the first time we've ever done Pros versus Joes via video with that technology. We've never done that before. Feel like it went off great this year, but maybe if there's something you'd like to see us do differently, maybe there's something that you like to see us do as far as a format for the show goes, or however we do it with our coverage, we certainly like to hear it. Email highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com, and we'll be sure to get that squared away when we do Pros versus Joes next year, as well as the live on High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour draft coming up on Friday. I'm going to go get a sip of water. Thanks so much, everybody. Really appreciate it. And we'll talk with you tomorrow night.